This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Hello all, my name is Sara Dietschy, Rhymes with Peachy. Today we are talking about the Sony Alpha 1, or A1. This camera ships early in March for $6,500, and you might be, whoa, Sara, that's a little much. Well, this is Sony's flagship camera. They have the Sony A7S, A7R, and also the A9. They both serve their very specific purposes, but Sony was like, well, hey, what if we had a camera that did everything, all of the things, and this is the one. See, like the one, A1, Alpha 1, that's why they're calling it one.
New York needs to chill on the snow. Apparently a big snowstorm is coming tomorrow, so might limit the things that I can shoot, but we'll get creative. It's so cold.
Okay, let's unbox this guy because I am very, very excited. We got 50 megapixels, full frame sensor, 30 frames per second, no blackout. You can do that up until like 200 images before I feel like it needs to buffer. So this is all just very exciting stuff. Okay, USB-C to USB-A. You got the literature. This camera is super exciting, and also in video mode, you have everything that we have with the A7S III. So 4K, 120 frames per second, 10-bit, 422, but this guy has 8K up to 30 frames per second. So you can, folks, with the R5, that's right, Sony's in town. You have to pay $6,500 for it for now, but hey, that's exciting. Okay, so we have a nice strap. Ooh, a nice like leather feeling. We have a charger, which is good. They don't just expect you to plug in your camera via USB-C. Here's another USB-A to C, and then a USB-C to USB-C. This is for the charger, and this is what we've been all waiting for right here. I love that Sony just surprised us with this. Wow. Okay, here it is. Yes, the grip feels nice. What I'm used to on the A7S III, I used the A7 III for a while, and the grip is just super wimpy. Don't like. Okay, this is controversial as well. There is no flippy screen. There's the normal articulating screen, but it doesn't come out like the A7S III that we just love, right? We love, especially video creators. Now, some pro photographers who don't use video at all, they don't need to see themselves while they're filming like this, say that they actually prefer displays like this because they're more reliable. They're less likely to break, and it's just flailing about and you hit it in the wrong way. It's so easy to break. I personally think that they're just making excuses because again, we love a flippy screen, guys. Now I've been talking about screens for way too long when this is the least interesting part of this camera. So the camera physically is very similar to the A7S III. You have the dual SD card slots / CF Express Type A, so you can put those two types of memory in the same slot. You have the dials at the top. This is all pretty much the same, the custom buttons on the right side. And then you have the same really comfy thumbstick. I love this, it's very grippy, similar buttons down here. But all of the special sauce is inside the A1. So let's just run through it real quick. Sony is kind of special compared to the competitors because they make a lot of their own parts. So the sensor in this camera, you know, Sony makes sensors for other camera manufacturers. So they're really able to say, hey, we have a new shutter, new image sensor and processor and viewfinder, new everything, and immediately put it in a new camera. And it's crazy because their A9 too, that's usually what maybe sports photographers have been using, journalists, all of that. And that camera is super impressive, but compared to the A9 II, this is faster. faster readout, so less rolling shutter. And not to mention, when we're comparing it to the A9 II, it is 25 more megapixels. We also have the brand new menu system that was introduced on the A7S III, thank goodness, because it just makes so much more sense, and it is full touch.
Like I said before, more processing power, 8 times the processing power, better color reproduction. And for you video people, it has S-Cinetone, which is a picture profile only found on Sony's cinema cameras, like the new FX6. When that FX6 came out, I was like, do I need it? I probably need that, right? I'm holding over with my A7S III right now. We'll see if that temptation is there, but I love that Sony is really the only camera company that, one, just makes all of the cameras, so many cameras, holy smokes, but they're not really worried about stepping on the toes of their fancy cinema line cameras. They're like, hey, let's just pack it all in a mirrorless camera, and if people need, you know, the audio inputs, the built-in ND filters, they'll go for the cinema line, but let's put some fancy things in these cameras in S-Cinetone. Well, I guess they better, because it's a $6,500 camera. S-Cinetone, the skin tones are just amazing. It's just a really good look all around, and in some ways, the A1 is actually better than the FX6. So it has S-Cinetone, but it also has active image stabilization, the same amazing image stabilization that's found in the A7S III. They've made huge improvements when it comes to autofocus. Say you are shooting a biker who's coming down the road and you're shooting at 30 frames per second. That's a lot of pixels, a lot of photos, but the camera's actually doing up to 120 different recalculations for the autofocus. So if you have a lot of movement in between taking those 30 frames in 1 second, it's taking multiple calculations and recalculating where your camera should be focused. When it comes to eye tracking, it's improved 30%. Remember, that's for humans and animals in photo mode, and they also added bird eye tracking. I'm gonna be honest, the snow has been a little bit too intense for me to just go bird watching. However, you know, animal eye autofocus. I do have some friends with the cutest chihuahua in the world. Yeah. Hi. Hi.
Come here. Good, good. Okay, Paige, this might take her.
Oh my gosh. Photo mode, and then remember, you can only do the eye tracking for humans in video mode, but that has improved as well. And something I'm personally glad that they've added, because I've needed this multiple times when doing face tracking. You know, sometimes I have a item in front of me, but my face is right here, so it's only focusing on my face, but hey, I wanted to focus on this. There hasn't been a way to cancel the face tracking, either temporarily or to relock via a custom button, and now you can do that. There's a new anti-distortion shutter, so you can shoot at 1/32,000 and not have an issue. Also, anti-flicker shooting. This is very handy for places like in this office when I have the proper office lights on. They're very ugly LED lights. In previous Sony cameras, our 2 raw options are compressed RAW and uncompressed RAW. Now we have a new option that falls right in between that's called lossless compressed RAW. So that sits right in the middle. You're able to shoot at 20 frames per second opposed to 30 frames per second when shooting compressed RAW. So it's just another RAW option that has minimal quality degradation. These are Sony words. Degradation. Really, the list is just so long. I don't even know if I can get to everything in this kind of first look type video. But for you wedding photographers, they now have this new and improved silent mode where you can use flash. So think about you're in a very dark church, but it's a very quiet church for a wedding. This is gonna come in handy. They've really kind of just ticked the box of, I think, a lot of photographers being like, hey Sony, love your camera, love the A7R, love the A9, but if we could just have this, if we could just have anti-flicker shooting and silent shooting with flash, and also a high flash sync speed, but then also all of the video features from the loved A7S III plus 8K up to 30 frames per second, which is just awesome. Epic. Trying not to be the person that's like, well, we have 1080, why would we need 4K? That's overkill. Now in 2021, you're like, oh yeah, I can't imagine going back to a world of 1080. 4K looks great. I mean, this looks great, right? 4K TVs, all the things. So I really think above all else, if people don't use 8K in their workflow right now, I mean, this camera is essentially future-proofed. I still use the A7S III sometimes, and having 4K in that camera back in the day was crazy. Who's gonna use 4K? But hey, it's super useful, not just for future-proofing, but also cropping into scenes. I use this angle a lot, and I do the crop in, and maybe I'm showing products like, hey, look at this. Well, it might be helpful to have that extra resolution, and let's actually do that. Let's change the angles right now and let's compare it.
Okay, so we switched to the A1 and it's 8K. Oh, 8K. So say I'm showing a product. This is my A7S III. We're gonna zoom into the product. You know, this is your time to pixel peep. I'm sure it's great compared to the 4K from the A7S III that I was shooting previously. But also when it comes to 8K, you kind of have to mention the R5, right? So as I sit here and talk about our sponsor for today's video, Squarespace, that I love so much, I'm gonna record an 8K on this. I'm gonna switch the picture profile so you can kind of get an idea. And then maybe we'll throw the R5 on and you can pixel peep with the R5's 8K. Because, you know, it is interesting that people immediately compare it to the R5, but really the A1 is kind of in its own category. So we'll kind of have to wait to see what Canon delivers as a competitor. But if the R5 and the Canon 1DX had a baby, but the 1DX was mirrorless and not a DSLR, because that guy, that's pretty much their flagship, I would say, and it's $6,500, so yeah. Okay, Squarespace. This sponsored segment is actually kind of special because it comes with kind of like a half-baked announcement that I'll probably do a video later on about. Well, I needed a website for a new business that I'm running, and it's a photo/video studio in Texas, actually, in the Dallas area. If you're in that area and you ever need a super white space to shoot anything on, well, opening up a studio, and we need a website. So it was super easy to set up something simple. I have my own scheduling tools, which is really handy because I think we can save quite a bit of money if we divert the traffic to the specific website instead of renting it out mostly on like the Airbnb like website. They just have so many tools to empower you, whether you're a creator and need a portfolio or you want to run an online store. They have great marketing tools and amazing analytics. It really is an all-in-one platform where you can do all of the things, and it's really easy to tweak copy, colors, pictures, whenever you need to. Okay, so we switched to the Canon R5 8K. It's crazy that cameras just have 8K now. Okay, back to Squarespace. Like I said before, one of my favorite new features is the fact that you can do appointment scheduling right on your website to have that all-in-one situation. You can also create special membership areas. So it's kind of like Patreon, where you have gated content behind a paywall. So you can make your fans, members, clients feel super special and also earn revenue at the same time. The analytics are really gonna help you figure out where are people coming from? Where's this traffic? Hey, I post a video, guys, check out the new photo studio. I wonder how many visitors I get from this one specific video. My personal website, saradietschy.com, is a Squarespace website, and now this new website, it was super fun to start from scratch, see all the features, all the options you got. So if you're interested at all in building a Squarespace website, go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to sign up, get that website or domain, go to squarespace.com/saradietschy to save 10% off of your first purchase. Okay, so how's the R5 versus the A1? 8K footage looking.
Now I'm using the internal mics on the A1, the microphones that come on the Sony. Luckily, a lot of these Sony cameras come with the hot shoe on top. You can use the Sony mics where there's no cables, and they're usually smaller than the Rode VideoMic Pros, so those are just super handy. There is so much stuff I still want to talk about. Obviously, you've already seen some example images and video. I still want to shoot some more, have the camera in my hands more over the next few days, and then I'll wrap this entire video up with some of my final thoughts. So